Don't forget to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest stories. The party lights twinkled, mirroring the slightly fuzzy feeling behind my eyes. Linda always threw the best summer gatherings, fairy lights strung between the old maples, the scent of grilled chicken mixing with citronella, laughter bubbling up from clusters of people scattered across her sprawling lawn. I'd been looking forward to it, a chance to feel normal again, less like the woman whose life had recently decided to take a sharp, unexpected turn off the familiar highway. Ed's passing last year had left a silence in the house that still felt deafening most days. Coming to Linda's felt like stepping back into the sound, even if just for a few hours. I'd nursed a couple of glasses of white wine, chatted with faces I knew, smiled until my cheeks felt tight. But as the evening wore on, the cheerful noise started to feel like static, buzzing around the edges of my own quiet thoughts. It was getting late, the crowd thinning. Time to go home to the quiet house. My plan had been simple: drive myself, have 2 drinks maximum over several hours, and leave by 10. But life, as it often does, had other ideas. My car, usually reliable Betsy, had decided tonight was the night to throw a tantrum. A sputtering refusal to start, followed by an ominous silence under the hood when I'd tried earlier. Linda, ever the unflappable hostess, had waved away my apologies. "Don't be silly, Sarah. We'll get you home. Mark can take you." Mark? I scanned the remaining guests. I didn't immediately place him. Linda gestured towards a man standing near the edge of the patio, looking out into the dark garden. "My cousin, Mark. He just got here an hour ago, had to work late. He's heading back towards your neck of the woods anyway." I remembered Linda mentioning her cousin, the quiet one who owned some sort of specialized bookstore downtown. I'd never met him. He turned as Linda called his name, and my first impression was calm. He seemed rooted to the spot, unlike the shifting, mingling energy of the partygoers. He was probably around my age, maybe late 50s, with short, neat graying hair and kind eyes behind understated glasses. There was a stillness about him. He wore a simple button-down shirt, sleeves rolled up, looking slightly out of place, as if he'd arrived directly from a quieter, more thoughtful world. "Mark, this is my dear friend, Sarah," Linda chirped, linking her arm through mine. Sarah's car decided to be difficult. "Would you be a prince and make sure she gets home all right? She lives over near Willow Creek." Mark offered a small, polite smile. "Of course. No problem at all. Ready when you are, Sarah." His voice was deeper than I expected, smooth and even. No fuss, no hesitation, just a simple acceptance. I gathered my purse and wrap, said my goodbyes to Linda with promises to call about the car tomorrow, and followed Mark towards the street. His car wasn't flashy, a dark, well-kept sedan that looked comfortable and dependable, much like the man himself. He held the passenger door open for me, a gesture that felt almost quaintly courteous in today's world. Settling into the seat, I noticed the faint, pleasant smell of old paper and maybe leather. It wasn't the usual car smell of stale air freshener. It smelled interesting, comfortable. He asked, starting the engine. The sound was a low, unobtrusive hum. "Yes, thank you," I replied, suddenly feeling a little awkward. Small talk wasn't always my forte, especially with strangers. What do you say to your friend's cousin who's unexpectedly become your chauffeur? Thank you again for doing this. I really appreciate it. Honestly, it's no trouble. Linda's right, I'm heading in that general direction anyway. He pulled away from the curb smoothly, the streetlights washing over his profile. He seemed focused on the road, hands resting lightly on the wheel. The silence stretched for a few blocks, filled only by the soft hum of the engine and the distant chirp of crickets. It wasn't an uncomfortable silence, strangely enough. It felt peaceful. Maybe it was the wine wearing off, or maybe it was just the contrast to the party's noise, but the quiet felt welcome. He navigated the familiar streets leading away from Linda's neighborhood with an easy confidence. So, he began, his voice still quiet but friendly. "Linda tells me you're a painter." I was surprised Linda had mentioned that. It felt like a past life sometimes. "I dabble," I admitted. "More of a hobby these days. Used to be more serious about it." "What kind of things do you paint?" He glanced over briefly, his eyes holding genuine curiosity. "Mostly landscapes," I found myself saying. "Trying to capture the light, you know. The way it changes things." "I think I know what you mean," he murmured, turning onto the main road that led towards my part of town. "Light changes everything." The way he said it, simple and direct, resonated somehow. It wasn't just small talk. It felt like he actually understood. The streetlights became fewer as we left the denser suburban sprawl, the road ahead darker, illuminated mainly by the car's headlights carving a path through the night. The air drifting through the slightly open windows smelled like damp earth and honeysuckle. This unexpected ride home was already feeling different than I could have possibly imagined. The conversation started to flow more easily after that. He asked about my painting, not just polite questions, but thoughtful ones about inspiration, about the feeling of getting lost in the canvas. I found myself telling him about the frustration of trying to capture a specific shade of sunset, the small joy of finally getting it right. It felt surprisingly easy to talk to him. He listened intently, nodding sometimes, his occasional comments showing he wasn't just hearing, but understanding. He spoke about his bookstore, not just the business side, but the satisfaction of connecting someone with a book they end up loving, the quiet magic of a place filled with stories waiting to be discovered. He described the smell of aging paper and bindings with a reverence I understood, echoing my own feelings about the scent of turpentine and linseed oil. We talked about books we loved, discovering a shared affection for certain authors, the kind whose words felt like coming home. We discovered a mutual dislike for overly crowded places and a fondness for rainy afternoons. It wasn't dramatic. There were no sudden revelations or shocking confessions. It was simpler than that. It was the gentle unfolding of two personalities, finding unexpected points of connection in the quiet intimacy of a shared car ride. The subtle tension I felt wasn't romantic, not exactly, but it was a tension of awareness. An awareness of being truly seen, perhaps for the first time in a long while. He didn't pry into my personal life, didn't ask about Ed or why I seemed a little fragile around the edges, and I didn't ask about his. It was enough to talk about art and books and the way the world looked and felt. As we drove further, the houses grew farther apart, replaced by stretches of dark fields and trees silhouetted against the moonlit sky. The world outside the windows felt vast and quiet, mirroring the peaceful space that had opened up between us inside the car. He drove comfortably, never too fast, never too slow. It felt safe. "There's a spot just up here," he said after a comfortable pause in the conversation. "An overlook. The view of the valley is quite something at night, especially with the moon almost full." He glanced over. "Would you mind? It adds maybe 10 minutes, but it's worth seeing if you haven't before." I hesitated for only a second. My house, my quiet, empty house, could wait. "No, don't mind at all," I heard myself say. "I'd like that." He turned off the main road onto a narrower, winding lane that climbed gently upwards. The trees grew denser here, their branches occasionally brushing against the car roof. It felt like we were heading somewhere secret. He pulled into a small, unpaved clearing at the top of the rise. Switching off the engine, the sudden silence was profound, broken only by the chirping of night insects and the whisper of a breeze through the pines. He didn't turn off the headlights immediately, their beams cutting through the darkness, illuminating a low stone wall at the edge of the clearing. Beyond it, nothing but darkness. "We should get out," he suggested quietly. "The lights spoil the view." He killed the headlights, and the world outside plunged into a soft, silvery darkness, lit only by the high, bright moon and a million distant stars. He came around and opened my door again. Stepping out, the night air felt cool on my skin. The scent of pine was strong here, clean and sharp. We walked the few steps to the low stone wall, and the view, it stole my breath. Below us, the valley stretched out, a vast tapestry of sleeping houses, scattered lights twinkling like fallen stars. The moonlight bathed the distant hills in an ethereal glow, softening their contours, making the familiar landscape seem magical, mysterious. We stood there for a moment, side by side, not touching, just looking. The sheer scale of it, the quiet majesty, made our earlier conversation, the party, even my own anxieties, feel very small and far away. "Wow," I breathed. "You were right. This is incredible. Isn't it?" His voice was soft beside me. "Puts things in perspective." We leaned against the cool stone wall. The silence returned, but this time it felt different. It wasn't just an absence of noise. It was full, charged with the beauty of the night and the unspoken connection that had grown between us during the drive. It felt like we were the only two people awake in the world. "Sometimes," he began, his voice barely above a whisper, still looking out at the valley, "life feels like you're just navigating through dimly lit streets, you know. Following the familiar route because it's the one you know. You forget to look up or pull over and see the bigger picture." I knew exactly what he meant. That's how I'd felt for months. Head down, just getting through the days, the weeks. "You get lost in the details," I agreed, my own voice hushed. "The potholes, the traffic lights. You forget there's a whole landscape out there." He turned his head slightly, looking at me. The moonlight caught the lens of his glasses, but I could feel the intensity of his gaze. "Exactly. And sometimes you just need someone to suggest a detour." His words hum in the cool night air. It wasn't a proposition, not in the way that word is usually meant. It felt deeper than that. It was an acknowledgement of the rut I was in, perhaps the rut he understood too. It was an invitation to see things differently, prompted by this shared, unexpected moment. My heart was beating a little faster. Not with alarm, but with a strange mix of vulnerability and possibility. It was the kind of intimate moment that happens rarely in life, where guards drop, and you connect with another person on a level that bypasses small talk and pretense. He wasn't trying to impress me or win me over. He was just being present. And in doing so, he was allowing me to be present too, perhaps more fully than I had been in a very long time. "My wife, Eleanor," he said quietly, surprising me. He hadn't mentioned a wife. "She passed away 3 years ago. Cancer. She loved views like this. We used to come up here sometimes." The revelation wasn't sad, the way he said it. It was just a fact, shared softly in the darkness. A piece of his landscape, offered gently. "I'm so sorry, Mark," I murmured. And I truly was. "It's all right," he said, turning back to the view. "Mostly. Some days are louder than others, you know." I did know. Oh, how I knew about the loud days. "Yes," I whispered. "The silence can be the loudest sound of all." He nodded slowly, a shared understanding passing between us without needing further words. We stood there a while longer, enveloped by the vast, quiet beauty of the night and the fragile, unexpected intimacy of shared grief and understanding. It wasn't about romance. It was about humanity, about seeing the map of loss in another person's eyes and recognizing the landmarks. The unexpected thing wasn't a kiss or a confession of attraction. It was this profound, quiet moment of seeing and being seen, of shared vulnerability under a canopy of stars. It felt like a quiet clearing in the dense forest of my own solitude. The drive back down the winding lane and onto the main road towards my house was different. The earlier easy chatter was replaced by a comfortable, thoughtful silence. The air in the car felt charged, but not with awkwardness. It was the quiet energy that follows a moment of genuine connection, like the air after a summer storm, cleansed, calm, and carrying the faint scent of ozone. Mark seemed content with the silence, too, his hands steady on the wheel, his gaze focused ahead, but seemingly more relaxed than before. I watched the familiar landmarks approach, the old mill by the creek, the sharp turn at Willow Road, but they looked different tonight. Tinged with the silver of the moonlight we'd shared at the overlook, colored by the quiet understanding that had passed between us. When he pulled up in front of my house, he cut the engine, plunging us back into the neighborhood quiet, broken only by the low hum of a distant air conditioner. My porch light cast a warm, welcoming glow, but tonight the house didn't seem quite so empty. Something had shifted within me. "Well," he said softly, turning slightly in his seat. "Here you are." "Thank you, Mark," I said, meeting his gaze. His eyes, behind the glasses, looked kind, steady. "Really? Thank you for the ride. And for the detour." A small smile touched his lips. "You're welcome, Sarah." It was. Nice. Nice. Such a simple word, yet it felt inadequate for the depth of the connection I felt, but also somehow perfectly right. It wasn't dramatic or life-altering in a loud way, but it was significant. He didn't make any move to get out, didn't linger awkwardly. He just waited, respecting my space. I gathered my purse, my hand resting on the door handle. "About my car?" I began. "Don't worry about it tonight," he interrupted gently. "Get some rest. Linda and I can help you sort it out tomorrow." "Okay," I agreed. "Thank you." I opened the door, stepping out into the familiar air of my own street. I paused, looking back at him. "Good night, Mark." "Good night, Sarah," he replied, his voice calm and warm in the darkness. I closed the door softly and watched as he waited for me to get to my front door before pulling away smoothly, his taillights disappearing around the corner. Inside, the silence of the house greeted me, but it didn't feel oppressive tonight. It felt contemplative. I walked through the familiar rooms, the events of the evening replaying in my mind. Linda's party, the initial awkwardness, the surprise of my dead car battery, and then Mark. The quiet conversation in the car, the shared appreciation for simple things, the unexpected stop at the overlook, the starlit view, and that moment of profound shared understanding. It wasn't a whirlwind romance, nothing like the stories you sometimes hear. It was quieter, subtler, but no less powerful for it. It was the simple, unexpected gift of human connection, of feeling seen and understood at a time when I felt largely invisible, even to myself. Standing in my dimly lit living room, I looked out the window into the night. I didn't feel giddy or swept off my feet. Instead, I felt a quiet sense of expansion, like a door had been gently pushed open in a room I hadn't even realized was closed. The drive home with my friend's cousin hadn't been about sparks flying. It had been about finding a steady, quiet light in the darkness. a reminder that connection can happen in the most unexpected ways, that understanding can be found in shared silence, and that sometimes a simple detour can show you a view you desperately needed to see. I went to bed that night feeling less alone, carrying the quiet peace of the overlook within me, a gentle reassurance that even after the sharp turns, the road ahead might still hold unexpected beauty. And maybe, just maybe, I was ready to start looking up again.